I almost saw some dancing then. This is great. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Just a little bit of an introduction. You see my name in the programme. It's actually got Chris Daniels. I'm not a double personality. But Chris has handed the baton over and said, you can say it all, can't you? So, but I want you to realise that I stand only as one person, but there's actually a team and a crowd behind us. It's not just, and I'm just fronting it and sharing something with you. Thanks, Bob and Mary. I don't know why you want me 2 years running, but there you go. I did share when Fire in the North was in Alnwick last year, but things have moved on, so I'm pleased to have the opportunity to tell you a little bit about what's been happening, and really to share something of what God's done, only a little bit of what God's doing over Northumberland, particularly the valleys, over Allendale, south of the A69, although I don't like putting boundaries in because God's doing stuff for either side, but and down Weardale and Tyndale, and really there's a little card, in fact, on your table which we've produced as a bit of a prayer card, really. I'm going to speak to the heart behind the vision, but the rivers which form the sort of boundary to the area which we sense God, or the line, it's a faint line rather than a boundary, about where God wants us to put our emphasis. But it's what's happening now is what God has been doing over the years, really. There's always a generation who've gone before, isn't it? And in no way do we want to limit and put down that which has already been happening. But God's been preparing in previous decades, but more particularly in the last sort of 12, 15, or 20 years or so, there's been some very faithful and committed people who've been praying. The saints have been gathering outside of the normal boundaries of church, but God has been calling them together. And we've been declaring God's rule and realm, and also the blessings on community. And it's been quite significant as that has been happening. And alongside of that has come praise and worship. And just as we've been linking to the whole theme today about singing, I believe that when we do go into, we praise and we worship God wherever we are, it actually prepares the way and it declares something to the heavenly realms. And that was behind my question, really, which I gave to Bob, because we need to realise that we're not just singing songs or even just pronouncing words. We're actually doing some damage to the enemy's kingdom. And we're claiming back the ground which I believe he has stolen from God through sin and all the other things which has happened. And so the combination of prayer, the proclamation of God's truth, and the praise of his people has actually been a bit of a heart and a motto behind that which God's been doing. And this is where I want to sort of acknowledge what Chris and Brenda and a team of others have been doing over the years, because as they've gathered, the momentum has built to the extent where there's now several worship events up and down the valleys, from Allendale, but also then down into Weardale and Cumbria, to Alston, and different areas. And God has been drawing his people together outside the walls of church, outside a particular shape or framework of a denomination, which I think is what God's doing now. I think it's all coming down, and now it's, as I've been saying for many years, God is gathering his people under the banner of kingdom, and not so much of local church, a specific church or a specific denomination. And I've been a Baptist minister before I hit that fatal sort of, well, not fatal, but that number called 65 or 66 it was. And I thought retirement was on my card. Joke. But since God moved us up here, I've caught what God has been doing, has been preparing his people. And I've got stirred. And I really do believe that there's a time when we need to start looking outwards from that which God has been doing. And so this is where Lifestream comes into the picture. And God opened up the vision to me through the cross of New Year's between 22 to 23. And I was reading through the books of Isaiah. In fact, very similar. You got Isaiah 42 this morning, we heard earlier. And it's those first few chapters from sort of 40 through to about 43. And it talks a lot about rivers, valleys, and deserts, and dryness of lives, and all sorts, until God steps in, until God changes the nature and brings life and brings a change. And really, that was, I thought, this is what's been going on. God's been starting to bring about a change in the communities across the valley. And that shift, that momentum has brought about a growth in the believers of the area, and it's encouraged. It's not meant to be a para-church thing, it is the church. Yeah. And it's meant to be releasing, and we're encouraging that releasing. And so God gave me this vision that we should be starting to move out from where we have been to this next phase, if you like, into reaching and touching our communities with the good news. We're all here. It's nice to be in a nice Christian worship event and have a whoopee time and everything, but I tell you, there's a world going to hell. And therefore, we need to make sure that we share the good news. And so God burdened my heart using the John the Baptist harp about the cry. Who's going to cry? Who's going to shout in the desert? Who's going to bring the message? And so that was really the motive behind it. And also what prompted it. I saw on Facebook, on the Allendale sort of pages, an advert for a psychic reading event in Allendale, and it was presented just like it was, let's come and have some, a chick butty and a cup of coffee together. It was that sort of level, because they don't realise a lot of the time the damage that some of these things can do. Anyway, it was as though God said, where's my church? Where's my church? Why don't you be advertising the good things which you've got? Why aren't you out there? Why does it have to be the enemy all the time? And so it was that stirring within my heart which prompted me, in one sense, to think, how can we move out? And it's still a formulating vision. You need to hear this. In no way is it all together, but we're running with what we sense is a heart to share the good news. And it will come in the shape of some evangelistic events, which will have a different content, a different sort of varying approach, shall I say, but the content is quite clear. And that is that we use village halls. In other words, we're out in the community and not within churches. That was very important. And then the content of the gathering would be music and worship. It would have food. There might be video. There'll be a spoken word. And that spoken word will either be testimony of somebody's life, of what God's done for them, and also the preaching of the gospel. Very clear. God said, I want that in it. Now, you call me old school or what? I've been in Baptist ministry for 30 plus years, and before that in youth and community work. And I tell you, the preaching of the gospel is crucial. Crucial. How will people respond if they've never heard? And therefore we need to be out there doing it. But there's another dynamic which God brought, which I've not, was